smash the like button if you believe that Edge needs Vince McMahon more than Christian Cage does currently.
For the last time, will Tony Khan please replace Wheeler Useless for Kyle O'Reilly in the Death Rider BBC Club? That's the most logical choice. Kick him out the group. And then maybe fans will take the BBC Club more seriously if you add Kyle O'Reilly. He's legit, not Wheeler Useless. That's why nobody takes this group seriously. It's because of Wheeler Useless. Okay, here's why. Every member in this group used to be in the World Wrestling Federation, all except Wheeler Useless. So why wouldn't the fans like this group? If every member used to be a part of the World Wrestling Federation, all except Wheeler Useless. He is dragging down this group. Add Kyle O'Reilly so people can take this group seriously. Fans respect Kyle O'Reilly, so kick him out. So let's talk about the close skill gap between Edge versus Christian Cage. Because I'm telling you, ever since Edge left the World Wrestling Federation, this man has been exposed inside and out. This man has been exposed as a Vince McMahon machine. Listen, I like Edge, but let's be real. He's a product of the Vince McMahon machine. Not so much Christian Cage. Because Christian Cage, he made that name in TNA. So you cannot say that Edge is better than Christian Cage, because Christian Cage has been successful in TNA and in All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. Not so much Edge. To me, Edge is on the decline. This man has been exposed as a World Wrestling Federation product. That's all he is. Edge, he ain't shit without Vince McMahon. You see, somebody told me that Christian Cage, he's better than the rated R superstar Cope, but he's not better than Edge. Listen, bruh, that makes no fucking sense. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. The rated R superstar Cope, he ain't no different than Edge. He ain't no different from the Edge we've been seeing for the past 5 years. Like I said, it's not that deep. I'm talking about who's better. Skill for fucking skill. We are not talking about the booking, but let's talk about the booking. By your logic, by you saying Edge is better than the rated R superstar Cope, you are putting over Vince McMahon by that same logic, because Triple H did not book Edge. Vince McMahon was the last guy to book Edge. Let's talk about his feuds with Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, Seth, Ricky Rollins, Dominic Guerrero, Finn Balor, Dane Priest, fucking Randy Orton. Those were Vince McMahon feuds. That's the last time Edge was somewhat entertaining. Let's be real. Edge has not proven a damn thing since leaving the World Wrestling Federation. He has not proven he's better off without Vince McMahon. But Christian Cage proved he is better off without Vince McMahon. But I feel like Christian Cage had a very underrated career post-Edge. I'm talking about from 01 to 04. I'm talking about the Un-Americans, Lance Storm, Test. That was a very underrated group. Lance Storm was tag team champions with Christian. Post-Edge, Christian Cage was doing some very underrated work that was very underappreciated. He was tag team champions with Chris Jericho. Now, Edge has been here for over 2 years. He's been in All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling for the last 2 years. So let's compare their post careers after leaving the World Wrestling Federation. Let's compare the TNA Christian Cage to Edge right now as we speak. Who's better? So you cannot say that Edge is overall better than Christian Cage. Prove it. Because last time I checked, Edge is very boring. He's very dull without Vince McMahon backing him. What part of that don't you understand? Christian Cage was a megastar in TNA, and he's been doing great work in All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. Listen, it doesn't matter if you call Christian Cage stale at the moment. Christian Cage, he's still more entertaining than Edge. You see, Christian Cage, he learned to adapt post leaving the World Wrestling Federation. Not so much Edge. He still calls himself the rated R superstar. Bruh, That's a Vince McMahon nickname that he gave you. So you are still piggybacking off your gimmick from the World Wrestling Federation. So you cannot swim without Vince McMahon giving you a lifesaver. Not so much Christian Cage. He's proven to be successful in all three companies: the World Wrestling Federation, TNA, and in All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. He's a former TNT champion. In my opinion, he's the greatest TNT champion of all time. He made that belt relevant. Okay, cool. He was tag team champions with Hollywood Hogan. Okay, cool. He was tag team champions with Randy Orton. Bruh, anybody can be tag team champions with Hollywood Hogan and be relevant. Anybody can be tag team champions with Orton and stay relevant. But Christian Cage had to carry Lance Storm. Boring ass Lance Storm. This man carried Lance Storm for the last 2 years before they broke up. There's a reason why people called Roman Reigns versus Edge a dream match. Because those were Vince McMahon's 2 favorite fake pro wrestlers that he shoved down our throats. Everybody knows that Edge had a forced push, just like Roman Reigns. That's why that was a dream match. Vince McMahon, he forced Edge to become a main eventer, and then he made Christian Cage a mid-card guy. Yes, you can make the argument that Edge was the first Roman Reigns. Trust me, I remember it like it was yesterday. Vince McMahon was trying his best to convince the audience that Edge was a top guy and a main eventer. He was trying his best to convince you that Edge was on the same level as John Cena. That sounds like Roman Reigns. Every time I see Edge in All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling, I'm like, man, Vince McMahon is a fucking genius. He really convinced us that Edge was a top guy and a main eventer. I feel like Edge was a product of great marketing, and he was a product of being a part of a great era from 1999 all the way to 2010. He was a product of being around a great era. You have no idea how big a fan I was of Christian Cage when he first turned on Edge back in maybe 01 or 02. That Christian Cage was very underrated when they first made him a singles guy. Christian Cage had a great theme song back then. It was an opera theme song. That shit was knocking. Also, I could have sworn he won the European Championship. So Vince McMahon, he was pushing Christian Cage back then. But for some strange reason, he saw Edge as a main eventer. But not so much me. I was more higher on Christian Cage. I felt like Christian Cage had huge upside. So, was I pissed off at Christian Cage when he left the World Wrestling Federation to go to TNA? Hell no. I felt like that was the best choice. That was the best option. Because Vince McMahon did not believe in Christian Cage. I don't know why. Because I feel like Christian Cage has more skills than Edge. Do not get it confused. Christian Cage has more talent than Edge. It's just Edge was a product of being a Vince McMahon guy. What part of that don't you understand? He's proving that right now in All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling in the hands of Tony Khan, man. Okay, by your logic, who booked Edge better? Tony Khan, man, or fucking Vince McMahon? Hell, you can make the argument that Tony Khan, man, has booked Christian Cage way better than Vince McMahon did. You can make that argument, but you cannot say that about Edge, the rated R superstar Cope. Why would Tony Khan, man, allow Edge to name himself that? Also, this might be a crazy ass take, but you could also make an argument that Edge became very uninteresting the moment he broke up with Lita. I truly believe the best version of Edge was when he was smashing Lita. That was the best version of Edge. Hell, that was his best run ever in his career. When he was smashing Lita. Hold on, didn't Edge feud with CM Punk? You can make a serious case that CM Punk was more entertaining than Edge in that feud. People tend to forget Vince McMahon, he made the Edge character. It was not Edge. It was not Adam Copeland. No, it was Vince McMahon who gave him that gimmick. So yes, Edge is a product of Vince McMahon. I'm sorry, but Without Vince McMahon, the Edge character has no guidance. Like I said, there's no difference between the rated R superstar Cope and Edge. Please do not say that Christian Cage is better than the rated R superstar Cope. But I feel like Christian Cage has always been better than Edge, if we're being honest. Okay, what has Christian Cage done since leaving the World Wrestling Federation? Okay, he's a former TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Also, he's a former TNT Champion. He's a former Trios Tag Team Champion. He also has a Money in the Bank contract briefcase. This man has been more successful than Edge, which means he's better than Edge, because Christian Cage has learned to adapt without Vince McMahon booking him. Without Vince McMahon guiding Edge, giving him input, Edge is boring. Edge is dull. Edge is not entertaining without the brainchild of Vince McMahon giving him ideas. Let's say they turn the Death Rider BBC Club into good guys. Let's say they feud with Christian Cage and his faction. I guarantee you this, Christian Cage will make Dean Ambrose somewhat entertaining. He would make Dean Ambrose interesting. Not so much Edge. How come Edge cannot make Dean Ambrose interesting? All right, let's talk about Isaiah Swerve Scott. The last time he was world champion, his best feud was against Christian Cage. Let that sink in. Okay, you can make the argument that Christian Cage is the most underrated guy in all Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. Every feud that he's in, people care, people watch, people talk about it. The last time Edge was somewhat entertaining was when he was feuding with his best friend, Christian Cage. What does that tell you? Which feud was more entertaining? This feud with Dean Ambrose or Christian Cage? You answer that question. For the past 2 years, Christian Cage has been very underrated with his cult-like character. Let's talk about Nick Wayne's world. He made him somewhat relevant. The fact that Christian Cage, he is smashing Nick Wayne's world's mom, that makes him better than Edge. He's smashing Nick Wayne's world's super thick mom. So that right there makes him better than Edge. He's branching out. The last time Vince McMahon booked Christian Cage, that was a long time ago. He's nowhere near that gimmick. He's nowhere near that character. My point is, Christian Cage has evolved since leaving the World Wrestling Federation. When Christian Cage was at TNA, he proved that he could be a top guy. Right now, as we speak, what's the difference between the rated R superstar Cope compared to Edge from 3 years ago? There's no difference. Edge has not evolved. Edge is living off of nostalgia. The same nickname, the same fucking theme song that Vince McMahon gave him, that Vince McMahon allowed him to have. That's what I mean. Edge has not evolved. He's living off of nostalgia from the World Wrestling Federation. Let's compare Captain Charisma to the Father of the Year, Christian Cage. It's apples and oranges. That's what I mean by evolving. There's levels to this. Christian Cage, he's not living off of nostalgia. Hell, let's be real. I wish Christian Cage can bring back his old school theme song from 2001. That theme song was a fucking banger. Like I said, who's doing better right now? Christian Cage, he's smashing Nick Wayne's super thick mom. In Edge, he's carrying FTR. He's carrying all these bald-headed boring fucks in all Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. This dude, he shook the hand of Wheeler Useless. It's like, what is this? This is not the Edge I know. In year 20, John Cena has just evolved his character. Now he's a part of the Illuminati. Okay, let's compare that to Edge. Edge has been the same guy for the last 20 to 15 years. How come nobody talks about that? Let's talk about the Judgment Day. The moment they kicked out Edge and they added Finn Balor, the Judgment Day became very successful. I'm surprised nobody has ever talked about that. How the Judgment Day, they flourished the moment they kicked out Edge. Make that make sense. All I'm saying is, people think that Edge has been exposed ever since he signed with All Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. But nobody in The Rock means nobody has ever said that about Christian Cage for the past 4 years. That's what I mean. I think Christian Cage, he's better. Christian Cage, he taught himself to adapt without Vince McMahon backing him. Like I said, from 01 all the way to 04, I think Christian Cage was better than Edge. Okay, here's why. Do you remember Booker T? Do you remember Booker T versus Edge? These two men, these two grown men, were fighting over a shampoo commercial. Make that make sense. Oh man, that was great stuff, man. Great shit. When Edge and Booker T were fighting over a goddamn shampoo commercial. But that just goes to show you that Edge was not always a big time star the moment him and Christian Cage broke up. Christian Cage was more consistent. His best run was with the Un-Americans, Test, Lance Storm. That was a very underrated faction. But around that time, Edge was fucking boring. I think he had the Rob Zombie theme song, right? Remember? Yeah, he had the Rob Zombie theme song. I'm telling you, Vince McMahon, he was shoving Edge down our throats. Actually, you can make the argument that Edge was not a star until John Cena became a megastar, and then Edge became his rival. That's how Edge got over. He was John Cena's rival, the face of the brand. That's how Edge became important. Now, I do remember that Edge had go-away heat the moment the fans found out that he was smashing Lita and he backstabbed Matt Hardy. That's when Edge had go-away heat. I mean, let's be real. The only time Edge had genuine heel heat was when he was attacking John Cena, he was smashing Lita, and then he was smashing Eddie G's widow wife. The only time Edge had genuine heel heat was when he was smashing yo bitch. That's the only time Edge can get genuine heel heat, is when he is smashing somebody's bitch. I'm talking about Lita and Vicky G. So, the skill gap between Christian Cage and Edge is very close. I think Christian Cage is better than Edge. I'm talking about quality over quantity. That's Edge. He's quantity. Because having Vince McMahon give you over 10 World Heavyweight Championships, that does not mean you are better than Christian Cage. He just felt like Edge had a better look than Christian Cage.